As far back as I can remember, I've wanted to tell stories. The issue was the actual writing aspect of it. Honestly, it's a task I find kind of arduous, but recently I came to the realization that there are so many more ways to tell stories, and I started thinking about alternative ways to tell the stories that I want to tell. So here I am adapting one of my oldest ideas into whatever exactly this is. Radio play, podcast. I'm not sure exactly what you'd call it. If anybody has any ideas what exactly this is, let me know in the comments below. But basically, this is a story that I started crafting when I was very, very young. It is heavily inspired by old anime from the 90s that I used to watch growing up, which I think will be pretty apparent pretty quickly. But it's just a story that I don't think I ever would have had the opportunity to tell otherwise, but one that I really still enjoy and I hold very close to my heart. I do want to preface this by saying I'm not an artist. I know that I don't draw very well, and I'm okay with that. The art I'm including that I created is really just to try and get the point across of what these characters in this world look like, so that you can kind of have a visual representation without me needing to go into incredible detail with describing it. Also, this is only the first part of what will be many parts. For this one, I tried to do it all off the cuff and just kind of say it as in a storytelling fashion without a script. I do think for future parts, I will most likely write a script for it because I think that the cadence of this one is a little odd, and it doesn't necessarily fit too well because I'm maybe kind of trying to think of a word on the spot and recut it together to sound good. I don't think it's awful, or I would have, redone it, but I do think that for future episodes, I will probably write a script or at least an outline so I have a better idea what I'm saying. So hopefully the quality will improve as I go. But that being said, here, I guess, is the first part of whatever this is. My story, A Dragon with Feathery Wings, Part 1, Episode 1. This story begins on the world of Krutor, in the nation of Alkan, in a region known as Baraka, and finally, in a small city called Farkan. It's a dark, quiet night. The wind is still, and the trees are silent. A lone woman slips her way into the window of an opulent manor. Her movements are quiet and precise. She's done her homework. She knows exactly where she needs to go. She makes her way into the trophy room. She walks past the ornately jeweled suits of armor and crown, various jewelries. They'd fetch her a high price on the black market, surely, but she was here for something else. She finds her mark near the back of the room, on a pedestal, not exactly out in the open. She didn't think the owner of this item really knew what it was. Compared to the other things here, it didn't look terribly interesting. It was just a clear black orb with a single pinprick of white in the center. It fit neatly in her hand as she picked it up and placed it gently into her bag. And just as she had come in, she quickly found her way out. She returned to the inn she was staying at for the night, and by tomorrow, she'd be gone. The manor she had broken into belonged to the boss of a local crime syndicate, although calling them a crime syndicate was maybe giving them a little too much credit. They were a little more than a local street gang, but their leader was rich enough that he had some sway over the larger mercenary groups of Alkan. The city was small and had little more than dust to pave their streets, but as our thief made her way down the road out of the city the next morning, she had to admit that there was a certain charm to the place. Her pleasant thoughts were interrupted when she saw 4 members of that local crime syndicate I mentioned earlier walking down the street straight towards her. Their leader appeared to be a muscular centaur man. Behind him, a massive, hulking minotaur. The other two were a slim, twitchy merman and a stout dwarf. She held her breath. She'd seen them walking in and out of the manor. She knew they worked for the big boss, but they didn't know her face. Nobody had seen her last night. In fact, nobody probably even knew the orb was gone. It would be fine. She just had to walk past and mind her own business. And then she saw it. Tied to the waist of the merman was a fat, juicy coin purse just ripe for the taking. It was right there. They had probably just finished shaking down some sucker. It would be so easy, he wasn't even paying attention. As they passed, she slid her dagger cleanly through the string holding the coin purse to the man's belt, meanwhile holding it so that it wouldn't make a sound. She plopped it quietly into her bag and continued walking. And then she heard it. The centaur yelling after her. "Hey, girlie, where do you think you're going?" Shit. She knew she'd gotten cocky. She didn't think they saw her, but maybe she was rusty. She turned around and gave him the most pleasant smile she could muster. "What is it?" They walked towards her. "Where's a pretty little thing like you headed this morning?" "I was just on my way out of town, actually." "Oh, bit of a shame. Why don't you let us boys show you the nightlife? Stay another day, huh? We'd love to get to know you better." Oh, they didn't notice her. They were just regular old sexual predators. This she could deal with. Her hand moved back towards her dagger, and then she heard yet another voice calling out from off-screen. "Hey! What do you all think you're doing? 4 against 1 doesn't seem very fair to me. Why don't you leave her alone?" The group of thugs and the thief all looked back to see the source of the voice. It was a fairly tall, muscular man with wild orange hair sticking out in every direction. At the nape of his neck, his orange hair faded to purple, and his eyes shone a bright red. He had a katana in a black sheath on his left hip. On his right hip was a sword wrapped in what appeared to be gauze, but the most striking thing about him was the massive sword he carried on his back. "Hey, how about you mind your own business?" the centaur growled. The man leered back at him. "Sorry, but I'm not in the business of watching people get harassed on the streets by a group of thugs without helping out. Now, leave her alone or, well, I don't really like to start fights, but if you're looking for one, I'll have to finish it." Without further warning, the centaur charged at the man, drawing his sword. As he aimed to strike, the man simply grabbed his wrist and disarmed him. He then slipped his other arm between the front legs of the centaur and with shocking ease lifted him above his head. He threw the thug into a nearby wall and the centaur crumpled to the ground unconscious. The other 3 thugs looked startled. The merman looked to the minotaur. "What do you think you're doing? Get the guy! He just took out the boss!" The minotaur growled and ran at the man. This time the man unsheathed the massive sword on his back and, using the flat end, struck the minotaur in the ribs, sending him crumpling to the ground, holding his side. It wasn't a fatal blow, or even one strong enough to end most fights, but these thugs weren't used to fighting anyone that actually fought back. The merman and the dwarf were terrified now, and they simply ran off without another word. The man approached the thief. The thief smiled back at him. She would have been more than capable of taking out thugs like these herself, but why look gift horse in the mouth? If he was going to do the fighting for her and make it easier for her to keep a low profile, why not? Accept it. Sometimes it paid to play the damsel if it meant she didn't have to do so much work and could get out of town a little more easily. "Well, I had it handled, but I appreciate the effort," she said to him. "Oh, sorry," the man stammered. "I didn't mean to interrupt if you were going to take care of it. But, I see 4 people ganging up on one person, and it doesn't feel right to just walk by, You're halfway decent," she said. Wasn't often you meet somebody that's actually genuinely kind like that. She liked this guy. "Hey, why don't I repay you by buying you some breakfast? I was getting hungry anyway, and I'm curious to know what your story is." "Oh, you don't have to do that. I was just..." No, it's fine," Seriously. Come on. She knew she should really get out of the city without wasting any more time, but she couldn't help but want to know more about this guy. His wild orange hair fading to purple at the nape of his neck, and the red eyes with slit pupils denoting that he was clearly a demon, and yet his angular features suggested that he might have angelic heritage. He was a dead ringer for... There was no way. There was no way, right? They sat down at their table. "I didn't catch your name," the thief said. "Oh, I'm Ren. Ren Kirahisha." Her eyes widened slightly. This was what she was expecting, but... Seriously? You're... Kirahisha, as in... the Kirahishas? As in descended from Finian Kirahisha? The Kirahishas? You're joking, right? "No, that's my name. It's the only one I've ever had. I don't know much about my ancestors or anything, but I mean, my parents and my brothers were both named Kirahisha too." Huh. Either this guy was an idiot or a con man. She shook it off for the moment. I'm Kirana Ranson, by the way." "Well, it's nice to meet you, Kirana." The waiter came by and took their orders. Kirana ordered a pretty standard breakfast. Meanwhile, Ren ordered almost everything on the menu, and Kirana began to regret offering to pay for the meal, though she did still have that merman's coin purse she snagged earlier, so guess she wouldn't be going broke today. "So, Ren, right? You some kind of traveling mercenary? Not everybody walks around with 3 swords, let alone one that big." "Oh, these?" Ren said, gesturing to the swords he'd leaned up against the wall behind them. "Oh, I don't really like fighting, but I am fascinated by swords. I just think they're, cool and well-made. I like collecting them." Huh. He was a weird one. But he was also clearly strong and so stupid. She felt like she could definitely use him. She gave him her most disarming smile she could muster. "So, you're not a mercenary, but if you're not going anywhere specific, how would you like for me to hire you on as my bodyguard?" "Bodyguard? I'm sorry, I've never done anything like that before." What exactly do you mean?" "Well, I've gotta get somewhere, and I'm a little worried about my safety, So I thought hiring on some help would be nice, but in a place like this, pretty much anybody you'd hire to help you is, the kind of people that you took care of earlier. So, figure I actually met a nice, capable fighter. I might as well try giving you a job." Well, I am kind of just wandering right now, I guess. Sure. I guess I wouldn't mind coming along with you. Why not?" Wow, that was way easier than she expected. This guy is very trusting. Some time passed, and Kirana was marveling at Ren's ability to pack away such an enormous amount of food when they heard a voice shout through the open window. "Where are they? If someone's hiding them, I'm going to be a little annoyed. Where are the 2 that hurt my boys? The white-haired demon woman and that giant orange-haired fellow." Shit. Kirana recognized that voice. It was Lecter, the leader of the local gang and the owner of the mansion she had stolen the orb from last night. He probably still didn't know the orb was missing, but she didn't need the extra attention. She flipped her hood up and lowered her head, trying to be as discreet as possible. Meanwhile, Ren looked out the window to see the man. "Oh, I think he's talking about us. We should probably go clear this up." "No, what are you doing?" Kirana grabbed his arm as he stood up. "Come on, it's not a big deal. I mean, they were messing with you, right? I didn't kill him or anything. It should be fine." "No, we don't need this kind of..." "It's fine." He pulled his arm away from her. She was nowhere near strong enough. God, he was strong. What did this guy eat? Oh, right, everything. She looked on in horror as he walked outside and approached the angel with his long, dark hair, black wings unfurled threateningly. "Oh, you fit the description perfectly. You must be the man that threw my centaur into a building." "Yeah, sorry about that." Ren smiled and scratched his head. This guy didn't have a care in the world. "I ran into him harassing a woman on the street, and I just couldn't abide that many people ganging up on one person, you know? But no worries, right? No worries. No worries. Where do you think you are? This is my turf. You can't just go around throwing my men and breaking their ribs. You need to pay up." "Sorry, what?" "Pay up. Reparations. I think 2,000 gold should suffice." "Sorry, but I'm not going to pay you. Your guys were in the wrong here." This guy was an idiot. Krona couldn't believe it. Should she really even be bringing this guy with her? She knew he was a little dull, and she thought she could use that, but this is next level stupid. Who goes up to a mob boss and tells him that their guys were in the wrong? "Well, if you aren't going to pay your reparations, I guess I'll just have to cut you down. To prove a point, of course, you understand, nothing personal." He smiled and drew a beautiful silver rune short sword, a sword designed to amplify the user's magical spells. Krona couldn't help but be envious. She wanted that. Ren, meanwhile, had left his swords inside because apparently he didn't expect a fight with the mob boss yelling in the streets to find the people who had beat up his men. Because of course he hadn't. Lecter slashed at him and Ren dodged with surprising swiftness for one his size. Annoyed by this, Lecter let loose with a fire spell that engulfed Ren. But suddenly, Ren emerged from the ball of flame as though nothing had happened and punched Lecter hard in the face, sending him reeling backwards. "Ah! You broke my nose, you Philistine!" Lecter howled and lifted off into the air. As he flapped his wings, feathers flew out towards Ren, piercing his skin, though they didn't go deep. This was troublesome. If he was in the air, there was no way Ren could reach him. Damn it. Krona didn't want to get involved, but at this point she felt like she had to. She grabbed Ren's katana and jumped out the window, throwing it to him. "Ren! Your sword!" Ren grabbed it. With a single swift motion, Ren unsheathed the blade, and Krona thought she almost saw the blade lengthen. And it must have, because with that swing, Lecter's left wing was sliced clean off, and he fell to the ground screaming. "What are you... How did you... Ren walked up to him. "Sorry about that, but you were really coming after me there. Look, I don't think we did anything wrong. You attacked us, so I'm just gonna get out of here, all right? This won't... Okay, bye." Ren walked back into the restaurant to grab his things as Lecter howled incessant, impotent threats at Ren and Kirana. So that was weird," Kirana said as she joined Ren in the restaurant. "Yeah, well, it happens, I guess," Ren laughed. "Okay, let's get out of here before any more of these guys can come after us." "All right, works for me." And with that, the two of them left the city. Or maybe I should say they fled the city as a mob organization mobilized to try and find them. Meanwhile, miles and miles away, in the castle of the Duke of Baraka, a prisoner sits in the dungeon chained to the wall, his long orange hair fading to purple at his neck. A guard approaches. "Hey, prisoner, the Duke's finally back. Time for you to get your punishment, eh? Think it's gonna be the chopping block for you." The prisoner looked up at him, his red eyes glowing with delight. "Oh, the Duke's finally back. Thank goodness." I was getting sick of waiting here for him. The prisoner stood, and the shackles around his wrists and ankles fell to pieces as though they had been sliced apart. The guard was shocked. He took a step back as the man slowly approached him. The prisoner reached out his arm, and a sword appeared in his hand, and he sliced effortlessly through the bars of the cell. The guard's neck erupted with a spurt of blood as he fell to the ground, clutching his neck. The prisoner simply walked past and up the stairs out of the dungeon. The guards that saw him screamed that there was a prisoner on the loose, but he easily cut through all of them before they could make a move. When he finally reached the throne room, the Duke was startled to see him, blood covering his face and clothes. "Who are you? What's happening here? Where are the guards?" "Oh, don't worry about it," the prisoner smiled. The Duke found himself unable to move, paralyzed with fear. He'd never felt such pure malice like this before. The prisoner walked up to him and quietly slipped his sword into the Duke's heart without any resistance. "I'll be taking this castle now," the prisoner smiled. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this. This is a story that's just really near and dear to my heart. I know it's not incredibly groundbreaking or anything, but it is something that I have been working on for, I kid you not, around 2 decades at this point. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button. If you are interested to see where Kirana and Ren's adventure goes from here, go ahead and subscribe to see future episodes I put out. I'm also planning on maybe putting out some episodes around the lore of the world of Krutor, if anyone is interested in that. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/chaosofgreed. There I just do gameplay stuff, very different from this, but I'd appreciate a follow there as well if you're interested. If not, have a great day. Thank you so much.